Special thanks to Jimmy Agent 007 for the story. Please check him out in the description below. Now, on to the story. The Mola science director had a problem. Rather, they had a problem that created another problem. The humans had invented FTL about 1,000 years early according to the predictive models. Due to the lack of specific elements in their star system, humans shouldn't have been able to do it at all. That was the first problem. This led to the sudden need to choose what species would provide the diplomat for first contact. Like most of the species in the galaxy, the Mola evolved into crabs. This was the second problem the first created. Humans would not react well to a chittering giant covered in a shell, despite the psychopathic Deathworlders being the far more dangerous species. A covert survey team made the mistake of wildly misunderstanding the meaning behind a crab festival at a maritime town and requiring psychological treatment for life once the recovery team managed to find them catatonic in the water. The only other warm-blooded species was itself a recent contact, but it entirely lacked any knowledge the humans would want to know about the galaxy. Though as the director investigated more, they realized that it was the only choice and hoped the diplomat they sent could study quickly. Pull was terrified. He volunteered for the diplomatic corps because his people were still learning to adjust to alien life, and he wanted to help foster that understanding. Suddenly, he was considered the best choice because he had been the first to leave the star system who wasn't a politician. That made him an expert. He wanted to hate his superiors for doing this to him, but he could see how terrified they were. "My children are too young," he had said. "They can't leave my wife or me yet." "Good, bring them." That was the reply to "bring them." 6 younglings who were just learning to scamper. Bring them to meet the humans. They actually seemed excited at the idea instead of taking him off the assignment. His wife Fala wasn't a diplomat, though. He was relieved when she offered to cover the sciences in his stead, trying to find the bright spot. How was she to do that while wrangling 6 younglings? He didn't know. He shook as the ships docked, looking between the door and his wife, who shook as much from her terror as the mobile mass of his children in her arms. It was a nightmare. The airlock had already cycled before they told him it was an airlock. They disguised it so he wouldn't run away until it was too late. He thought about the Mola who signed off on the plan, who had been advising his government the whole time with regards to the humans. "Trust me, this will work better than any other option." That was what they had said. Pull watched the doors open to reveal a dozen humans at the far side of a desk. Had they been closer, they would have towered over him. Their eyes widened as he entered and climbed the steps so he could reach the desk. His training was gone the moment he realized he was supposed to greet them. Instead, it was a human who spoke first. Shrieked, if his cultural translator was working correctly. "Little baby space otters." One of the humans who had been standing behind the ones sitting at the table rushed forward to stand at the desk. So stunned by the noise, Pull and Phala couldn't stop their excited younglings from jumping out of her arms and scampering across the table. The human crouched down and picked up one of the younglings and held him to her face. "The fur is so soft," she, according to the translator, giggled. Pull wanted to react, but was so perplexed by the way the humans gently paid attention to his young and the positive emotions. The translator insisted the humans were showing that he simply got started on the first contact protocols. The meeting went smoothly, despite the fuss generated by the humans and the youngling pups. Even the soldier, a general with an old withered face marred by a long scar from one side of his chin to his nose, let his one hand gently fend off the attacking pup in front of him while sternly discussing military matters. They were supposed to be psychopaths. That's what the file said. Monsters. Nightmares who didn't even mind when one of the pups tried to crawl under their uniform cap. They made no sense to Pull. Although entirely confused, Pull had to admit that his people had been the best choice to make first contact. His species being largely aquatic but still similar enough to the humans, let their engineers aid the humans in ocean living, while the humans taught them how to build higher on land. Exchange programs started, and humans showed up in all sorts of places. The nurseries were popular with young humans looking to have an adventure off-world, and the whole reason the space otters started building on the land was to protect their young from the dangers of the water. It was one of the few industries largely on land where humans were most comfortable. That being said, humans were surprisingly capable in the water, and as Poole dropped his pups off, he saw humans swimming in the pools, not entirely without grace. "Do their teeth not hurt?" Poole asked the human, who was almost ignoring several attacks by the energetic pups. "I'm used to cat bites. These little ones have a long way to go to bother me," replied the young human adolescent Ashley. "Cats? A breed of predator I think I read." Poole seemed confused. "Some are big enough to hunt us, but most of the ones we live with are the ones who domesticated themselves to feed on the vermin that congregated around our early settlements. Eventually, we just couldn't live without them. They still hunt us, but it's more playful and rather unsuccessful." Ashley laughed, and Poole was as confused as always. Nothing the humans talked about made sense. "Well, our young need to learn manners sometime." Ashley came out of the water wearing a wetsuit that mimicked the effect of his fur for the human and only stood a head taller than him. "Don't we all?" Poole had antagonized the service desk for his translator ever since making first contact, insisting it wasn't working. He had to accept the fact that the humans were, in fact, the ones not making sense. It wasn't just her. The others were the same. They were all young by human standards, but even the older ones were just as odd. The larger male that seemed to enjoy speaking with Ashley and was currently observing her had tried to explain sarcasm to him, but going over the logs with the translator tech made them both weep in confusion. "I should be getting to work. Your people are planning on building a skyscraper, and I need to make sure misunderstandings are at a minimum." Poole learned early on to smile and nod before carrying on instead of asking humans to explain themselves. Ashley was about to reply when her communicator angrily yelped at the same moment his did. Poole looked at the message. "Alert, Yukok ship spotted. Transport class transmitting intention to collect slaves and warning against opposition." "What is this?" Ashley asked, confused. "The Yukok collect slaves to train to work. They have a use for our people in the water infrastructure of their off-world colonies. They train them young so they don't question anything." Poole swallowed hard and looked up from his communicator to see Ashley upset, not upset. His translator kept spitting out words like angry and furious before rage, and insisting he was in extreme danger. "They are coming here." It was a statement that Poole weakly nodded to confirm. "Everyone listen up. Slave raid incoming. Get the young in the night pool. No windows, one door. Once they are inside, move a locker in front to hide the door itself and fill it with rocks." Poole watched as the tiny human ordered about the rest. "Stephen, message the student program and forward every move we make so they can do the same at the other locations. Everyone else, grab or make weapons and barricades once the otters are safe." Ashley turned to Poole. "Get your kids and the staff into the night pool. Don't make any noise and don't send any messages." Poole obeyed the stern expression that matched the determined glare of the general he had met at first contact, despite the youthful nature it had. It was crowded, but everyone was inside the night pool, and he soon heard a large object moved in front of the door. Moments later, the bangs of rocks being put inside rang out. Rocks that would have taken him and 3 others to move with a crane cart were being tossed around like nothing. Another alert came informing him the ship had landed at the clearing for the skyscraper site. Remembering his rank, he logged into the nursery feed to check the cameras and saw the humans frantically moving about. They broke things, made things, did things he didn't understand. Wanting to understand more, he logged into the human network and saw the messages they were sending and focused on Ashley. Ashley, attackers on the way. Ashley, block the doors to slow them down. Ashley, get in close so they can't shoot. Ashley, no retreat, no surrender. Ashley and Stado. Ashley, for the love of everything cute and cuddly. Ashley, no mercy. Pull felt a terrifying chill down his spine. He could see the humans getting ready and the yukak in the lot where his conveyance was parked. What followed was horrifyingly transfixing to watch. The upright crabs crashed into the barricades at the front door, expecting them to give way. Instead, they were forced into a narrow gap that seemed to be left intentionally. Ashley could be seen on the camera and heard through the walls. The bellow of her voice called out the messages being received from other locations, identifying weak points as they were discovered. Pole could see the humans at the front reacting instantly, switching the directions of their stabs. Some of the weapons they used had been a safety rail. They tore from the wall and bent repeatedly to break in a point. The rails his people needed welding tools to cut the humans broke with strength. Down one of the halls, leading to the rear door, humans had strung cables between each side of an intersection and attached a bucket to the middle. Using doors they ripped out of the frames as cover, they used the cable to hurl rocks at the yukak. With surprising accuracy, greater accuracy than the yukak themselves with their firearms. Stones were cast and crushed the shells they struck. The few humans who did show signs of being shot showed no signs of slowing. Carcasses piled up everywhere the humans were, but more attackers were coming in. Larger than even the human adults, yukak seemed to have no psychological effect on the humans they were trying to kill. The smaller ones leapt on to them and stabbed them under the plates on their back to bring them down before leaping on the next. These humans were still supposed to be children, not much more mature than the ones huddled around him in the dark. Ashley called out from the other side of the door, and he saw Yakuk had made its way to her. She was the smallest human at the nursery. She was shot 3 times as Pole watched. She was on top of the giant crab in as many seconds later, without so much as a weapon of her own. Her tiny fists struck out at her attacker as she was slammed against the walls in a frantic attempt to dislodge her. Pinned, Ashley bellowed in rage at the crab, only to be met with his mandibles opening wide to do the same. "Got you now, you f—" Ashley screamed, with what the translator insisted was vindictive glee. Pole watched as she ripped the lower mandibles off the crab and rammed them into the eye stalks, causing them to collapse as the stabbing ripped right into the brain case. It fell, and Ashley stood over the ruined carcass. Pole couldn't find any other yukak in the nursery. Not alive anyway. "Earthside Construction Company. We got their ship. Who's bringing the butter?" Paul couldn't even. Standing outside, Pole watched the humans pile up the dead. "How many did you lose?" "None, neither here nor anywhere else," Ashley replied, inspecting her wounds. "But you got shot. Others must have as well." Pole could see the red blood that didn't quite seem to be coming out anymore. "As I said, I am used to cat bites. These are only slightly worse." Ashley smiled as she watched Pole process what he heard, like he did every time humans confused him. "I don't understand humans," he sighed, letting his stress show. "You were supposed to be monsters, but you handle our young with care and love like your own. Then you go and do this," he gestured to the piles of dead crabs. "How can you be that and then this?" Ashley rested her hand on his shoulder. "It's the same thing." Pole broke down and wept, falling into the arms of the human, the monster. "For the love of everything cute and cuddly? You are finally starting to understand us." 6 months later, the MOLA science director was defending the labeling of human first contact as a success, and the Yukuk slave empire was no more. He insisted it was clearly second contact that ended in a war. Pole shook his head when he read the first line in the articles of unconditional surrender. "To the Coalition of Armed Student Volunteers, for the love of everything cute and cuddly, in addition to the community service credit requirements, the Yukuk Empire offers their surrender." Humans were weird monsters. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and wants to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that comments I enjoyed the story, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.